Coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere in the windswept prairies of Oklahoma, but I'll be in California next week. I'm your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. This is a new Acceleration Radio right here on KGRA and also on our YouTube channel, L.A. Marzulli. Folks, this weekend I will be at the Remnant Warrior Conference down in Dallas. You can see behind me some of the lineup here: Paul McGuire, Paul Bagley, Derek Gilbert, Michael Lake, Coach Dave, Josh Tolley, Derek and Sharon Gilbert, and of course yours truly, L.A. Marzulli. I will be speaking on the Days of Chaos. And I realize it's sort of a bummer in the sense that we are in the days of chaos. Now we've got this whole coronavirus scare thing, which is keeping people away from the conference. We're going to go. I think this whole thing is completely overblown. I mean, really overblown. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. I'm going to go to another slide here. But be that as it may, you know, we get a couple of deaths in the United States and everybody's closing everything down and canceling events and all this other stuff. Upwards of 30,000 people a year die from the flu in the United States. So I think as of today, we've got about, maybe 12, 14, 15 deaths in the U.S. So you've got 30,000 that we know die every year from the flu, and you've got 9. I mean, it's why are they doing this? And I've got some theories, and I'll just briefly tell you. This is global. It's China, it's Korea, it's Italy. I mean, it's everywhere. The scare has gone global because the grid is lit up, and that's all everybody's talking about, coronavirus. So a friend of mine called me the other day and spoke about this like weightlifting thing in Columbus, Ohio. I guess it's under Arnold Schwarzenegger's aegis. And they basically canceled the event. So the weightlifters will come, but none of the audience. I heard from Lisa Lyon, the producer of Coast. By the way, I'll be on Coast to Coast next Wednesday night talking about the new film, America's Stonehenge, and we'll get into that a little later maybe. But Lisa Lyon was saying that there was this huge conference. It's like a wellness conference. It's global. Over 100,000 attendees go to this thing. I guess it's like a week long or something. Whole thing's been canceled. We've heard rumblings that they're going to cancel the Olympics. So we have to ask ourselves, what's the motivation behind it? Well, the economy in the U.S. was soaring. We all know that. Stock market, new heights. When the coronavirus thing hit, the stock market tanked. Last week it went back up a little bit. Biggest day ever, I think. So that's more than a little bit. But what are the global elites trying to do here? And I know I got my tinfoil hat on, and I'm talking conspiracies, but that's how I travel sometimes. And who's behind all this? The globalists. Why are they doing it? Because Trump is soaring. They don't want Trump reelected. So they realize that they've got a very weak field in the Democratic Party. And I mean, Joe Biden, I mean, come on. Bernie Sanders, the communist? And he is a communist. I mean, what's the difference, really? Come on, Bernie. You're going to tax us into oblivion and create all these huge government programs that we don't want, and on it goes. So the bottom line here, something is going on. And I'm kind of leaning that this whole thing is a managed agenda. Another Gulf of Tonkin incident, as it were, a Sarajevo moment. I think the hype is through the roof. So I will be at the Hear the Watchman conference. I'm not going to shake any hands. I'm not going to be stupid about it. No hands, no handshakes, no hugs. You know, stay at least arm's length away from me because I don't know where you've been. And then, of course, the Nephilim Mounds Conference, March 27th, 28th, 29th. Russ Dizdar, Drew Graffier, Chief Joseph Riverwind, who will join me just in a few minutes here. And it's at the beautiful Cherry Hill Lodge. It's going to be a great conference. That's still on. And unless airfare completely shuts down and nobody can do anything, the conference is on. I will not travel in fear. I won't be stupid either. But I mean, you know, it's flu season. I get it. And by the end of March, as things start warming up. So I'm going to keep an eye on this thing. I'm going to proceed cautiously with the whole coronavirus thing. And I'll be reporting here. But I think it's a whole lot of nonsense, in my opinion. I mean, I realize that it's there and it's real. Okay, I get that. But again, the flu numbers, over 30,000 a year, and you don't hear a peep about anybody about that. 30,000 Americans die every year from the flu. 30,000. So now we've got less than 50 in the United States, and everybody's panicking. Just not going to buy it. It just absolutely, it makes no sense to me at all. So I will be at the Nephilim Mounds Conference. I will be discussing, let me just go there real quick, if I can get there. America Stonehenge, this is the Canaanite Connection. This is episode 4 in the On the Trail of a Nephilim series. 1, 2, and 3 really deal with the mounds, but this also deals with the mounds in sort of an indirect way. I believe, that all these sites are Nephilim sites. And you'll hear from Chief Joseph what his thoughts are on it. I can't wait to hear his presentation in Newark, Ohio. And folks, if you haven't signed up, go to NephilimAgain.com, NephilimAgain.com. One of the most interesting aspects of the America Stonehenge discovery, and I left it unedited in the film. Now, Kelsey Stone is the 3rd generation of the Stone family that's actually been running America Stonehenge. The site is located in New Hampshire, right over the border. It's a great place to go and spend an entire day, but you can spend a week there. I've been there, I think, 3 or 4 times, and the last time we filmed, we were there for like 5 days filming with our good friend Fritz Zimmerman, and we had our cameraman, our camera lady, Jessica Martinez, and she did a bang-up job. And Dennis, of course, was there. Kelsey was not there. So this clip is from the time before, when I'm following Kelsey around in the museum. They've got this log cabin, and in that cabin, very large cabin, by the way, is the museum. And they've got a lot of artifacts that have been found on the site. Well, Kelsey's giving me the tour. I've got this little gizmo. It's called an Osmo. So it's got my phone, but it shoots in 4K, and I'm following. It's got a gimbal on it, so that nice and steady. And I'm following Kelsey around the museum. And Kelsey goes to this display case, and he goes, these are some of the artifacts that we found that had writing on them here in America Stonehenge. I said, well, that's pretty interesting, Kelsey. Have any of these things been translated? And he said, yes, this stone here was found in a collapsed chamber on the site. And in the film, we actually take you there and show you the collapsed chamber. The roof came down like this. This stone was found underneath that, and they had to dig away dirt and debris and stuff, and they found it. And they realized it was an inscription, but they didn't know what it said. So it lay in the museum for 11 years. People came and went, looked at it. No one knew what it was. Enter Dr. Barry Fell, Harvard professor, who came in. And this man is skilled in ancient languages. In fact, he's written papers, scores of papers, literally. And I show this in the film. I went on the site, and you can see all of his papers. And I just kind of scrolled down to give the viewer an idea of just how amazing this man was. He wrote hundreds of papers, literally, about all these different finds and translations and what he discovered. So he walks into the museum, he sees the stone, and he goes, that looks like Proto-Phoenician, ancient Phoenician handwriting. And he translates it. So now we're back up to speed. So Kelsey's telling me about this enigmatic stone, and it's about this big. It's fairly large, fairly heavy. The inscriptions on it like this, it reads right to left, like ancient Hebrew. And Kelsey goes, well, this is the stone that we found here at the collapse chamber that Dr. Barry Fell translated, and it says Tubal of the Canaanites. And you can hear me on the film, and I didn't edit this. I go, what did you just say? And he kind of laughs nervously, and he goes, Tubal of the Canaanites. And I go, Tubal of the Canaanites? And I'm thinking this is like, my head is exploding, because the land of Canaan, the promised land, is where Joshua and Caleb went in with the mandate from a loving, holy God to wipe out all of its inhabitants, men, women, children, animals, burn everything. That's genocidal, homicidal, maniacal, capricious. It's severe, unless we're looking at something that's in the text, but modern translators don't talk about, the church at large doesn't talk about. So the people stay in ignorance. The tribes that are in the Levant, in the promised land, in the land of Canaan, the Canaanites, at the time of the conquest, 3,500 years ago, are the Rephaim, the Zamzumim, which means the buzzing ones, the Anakim, which means long necks. These are, in my opinion, different genetic markers which their name comes from, like Anakim, long neck, Zamzumim, the buzzing ones. What does that mean? I mean, when they talk, was it sort of a buzzing sound? We don't know. And that creates a lot of, not confusion, but it creates a lot of questions in my mind. So Baal of the Canaanites, here we've got this site, which we know, America Stonehenge, is about 4,000 years old. And now we've got a dedication stone to Baal of the Canaanites that was found in America Stonehenge. And this is why you can see right there, American Stonehenge, the Canaanite connection. I was completely taken aback and blown away by this. And it rewrites history. Now, I realize the naysayers, but it does, folks. It rewrites history. We have provenance of the stone. We know it was found in the collapse chamber. It's not a forgery. It lay in the museum for 11 years. If it was a forgery, then why didn't someone do something with it? It's not a forgery. It's the real deal. Tubal of the Canaanites. And it took someone with knowledge and skill like Professor Dr. Barry Fell to come in and acknowledge what this thing was. Tubal of the Canaanites. Absolutely astounding. So we get into this. This is part one. I'm working on part two. I'm on part two in post-production, actually. And part two is amazing because there's connections. And one of these connections, Kelsey Stone found after thousands of years. So here's this site in the Americas just sitting there, and it's got connectivity to Stonehenge, England, thousands of miles away. And the only way to do that is triangulation in the air. Who is the prince of the power of the air? And just to make this really clear, our mission statement is to expose the deception of the prince of the power of the air and to herald the return of the king, Jesus. And that's what we do in this film. We expose the deception of the prince of the power of the air and we herald the return of the king. Because all of this, it gives us and shows us the machinations of the fallen ones. It gives us insight into what he's doing. And frankly, folks, there's really no one else that's doing this from a Christian perspective that I'm aware of. I mean, Steve Quayle, Tim Alberino get into this a little bit. Derek Gilbert certainly gets into it. But, you know, I'm on the trail. We've got 4 episodes in this. 5 is in post-production. 6, which is actually finished, it might be released before 5. I don't know. It just depends. But the film is actually finished. So then there's 7, 8, 9, and it just goes on. We were places in Europe last year. We were all over Portugal, all over Spain, France, and the UK. We have 30 hours of raw footage from that trip. We have film from Sardinia, from Gozo, from Malta, from Majorca, one of the islands, and places in Sicily, where we went to the ancient temple of Diana. And we haven't really used these. In America Stonehenge, we did use some of the film from this ancient Canaanite site in the land of Israel. We were there several years ago with Mondo Gonzalez. And we were at Tel Gezer, which is an amazing place. And there's these menhirs, these standing stones, in a straight line. And in front of those menhirs is an altar with a basin to catch the blood. In fact, the signage tells us Canaanite standing stones, menhirs, and the basin was believed to hold blood for ritualistic sacrifice. But what we show in the film, and we've never shown this before, okay? There's this tunnel which goes deep into the earth at Tel Gezer, and the height of the tunnel is about 20 feet high. And there was an archaeologist there who came on the film with us, and I asked him, I said, what does a 5'6" Canaanite guy need with a 20-foot tunnel? And the archaeologist looks right at the camera and says, yeah, we're still trying to figure that out. They may have been really big, but they know that the tunnel was used ritualistically. There are standing stones there. There are niches in the wall of that tunnel. They have no idea what it was for. And they're out there in the city with their trowels digging, and I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, the goods where they want to be digging is in that tunnel. That's what they want to. And apparently the tunnel goes down like this, and then it goes and it drops down, I guess, into a chamber and then continues. And they were afraid of a collapse, so they didn't go any further. I find that incredibly enigmatic. In my opinion, the fact that the height of that tunnel is 20 feet, it's for the Nephilim, 12 footers, 14 footers. We know that Tel Gezer and that whole area was the Rephaim were there, the Anakim, the Zanzumim. That's why we're on the trail, folks. That's why we're on the trail. And I think you'll find America's Stonehenge, the Canaanite connection, really fascinating. www.buyjingles.com. And this stuff really does work, and this is why. Here's a guy from John Squire from New Zealand. Hey, LA, we have tried everything to try to remove some old pet urine stains from our large, expensive rug. Folks, I've been there, and we actually rented a cleaner just like John did, and put the Jingos directly in the cleaner, and it works wonders. It's just amazing. But let's get into this. I have been interested in the Jingos product that sponsors your program, but I have not bought it because of the high shipping cost to New Zealand. After much deliberation and at last resort, I decided to take a chance on Jingos before spending a whole lot more money to replace the rug. I used the product as directed, but was disappointed to find that the stain started to spread and get worse. I contact the manufacturer in the United States. And by the way, Jingos is made in Ohio. It's an American company. We've got Tarby, the guy from New Zealand, does the ad. But it's made right here in America, USA product. I've been to the factory. It's in Ohio, small little factory, but it's really cool. And Kevin and the guys are there, and so hats off to them. Anyway, let's continue. They suggested that because this stain was spreading, that Jingos was doing its job in breaking up the organic debris. Blotting the organic debris out with a damp rag was not enough to remove it because the stain was so deep. They suggested that I rent a carpet cleaning machine and use only Jingos in place of the carpet shampoo, pet stain remover, plus other products that the rental company wanted to sell me. First, I pre-treated the stains with Jingos. Then I used only warm water and Jingos in the rental machine to clean the large rug. Sure enough, the carpet cleaning machine suctioned out all of the organic debris. The stains are completely gone. In fact, the rug is like new. And what does it say? And you can see from the before and after picture, it was worth spending the extra shipping cost to New Zealand to get our rug clean. In fact, the extra shipping cost ended up saving us money compared to all the extra products that the rental company wanted to sell us. Jingos saved our rug. As you always say, LA, this stuff really works. And that's from John Squire in New Zealand. Folks, www.buyjingles.com, www.buyjingles.com. Pick some up today. I'll see you on the other side of the break.
Saucer is the leading innovator of original and authentic UFO-inspired essentials and apparel, symbolizing self-enrichment and advancement. Believe in style and elevate your craft at thesaucerbrand.com.
Ew, yuck. They're unhealthy and gross. Bugs, I hate bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. From contact, it kills bugs. Plus, Orange Guard kills hidden bugs and keeps new bugs away for weeks. I know. I use Orange Guard. Plus, all of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally regarded as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It promotes a healthier planet, and here's a bonus. Orange Guard cleans where it's sprayed. Plus, it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard.
You can get Orange Guard at Ace Hardware. And listen, folks, Orange Guard is tougher than bugs, and it's safe to use. Go to orangeguard.com. That's orangeguard.com.
G'day America, I'm Tarby, and I want to tell you about my new ultimate stain and odour remover, Jingos. My Jingos gunk gobblers will tackle stubborn organic stains and eliminate nasty stinking odours at the same time. Jingos effectively removes those little accidents like wine, coffee, dirt, blood, grass, even pet stains, and odours like fish, garlic, even skunk. Jingos is environmentally friendly, safe for use on fabrics, carpet, upholstery, and it works great as a laundry pre-soak on the worst pet or people accidents. Come on, America, what are you waiting for? Just go online and order your Jingos for $12.95 and get a 4-ounce travel pack free. Crikey, pay $19.95 and I'll double your order. That's 2 large Jingos and 2 travel packs for just $19.95. Blasted seagulls, where's my Jingos?
Join me, George Norrie, in Indian Wells, California, for the 8th Annual Contact in the Desert UFO Conference, May 29th to June 1st. Contact in the Desert is an epic weekend of adventure filled with exciting explorations into UFOs, ancient alien civilizations, crop circles, forbidden archaeology, disclosure, leading-edge science, and the newest evidence of ongoing contact, sightings, and leading-edge science. This amazing weekend offers lectures and workshops, exciting panels, and a luncheon that I'm hosting. Contact in the Desert also features leading experts including Linda Moulton Howe, Paul Hellyer, Stephen Greer, Emery Smith, Russell Targ, Doc Wallach, Leslie Kane, and many important researchers and scientists from all over the world. With the breaking articles in the New York Times and acknowledged naval sightings, Contact in the Desert is your place for inside information. Join us at contactinthedesert.com to get your tickets today. It's time to make contact. That's contactinthedesert.com. Contactinthedesert.com.
Find the podcast on iTunes, iHeart, and Spotify. KGRARadio.com.
Hey, folks, I did this little short film about the Bible that was allegedly leaking oil, and it's gotten a lot of hits on our YouTube channel. You can find it there just by going to our YouTube channel, L.A. Marzulli, and looking for the the oil leaking Bible hoax, I think is the title of it. But the bottom line is, let me get a slurp here. Most of the feedback has been very, very positive. There's always a couple of trolls who say some really vile and nasty things, and they should be ashamed of themselves. But I don't delight in this. I really don't. I don't delight in the fact that this whole thing was a hoax and discovered as a hoax. The fact that this guy would do it, and then his partners out there at some great churches with the Bible center stage allegedly leaking oil. And as I said in the film, you can see it. Well, it's very easy. All we need to do is put a camera on the Bible for 48 hours, and we can tell whether this thing is manufacturing oil or it isn't. And if it's not, then we've got to look for a natural explanation. And the other thing is, in my opinion, it's like a parlor trick. What's the difference between the Bible leaking oil and a statue of Mary or whoever bleeding or weeping? It doesn't work that way. And when I've seen the Holy Spirit come into a place, people fall to the ground and weep because of repentance, because of conviction of sin, just like Isaiah. Behold, I am a man of unclean lips, who's in the throne room. So we're bought by the blood of Jesus. We know that it's only Jesus that we're saved by his death and atoning sacrifice on the cross. And by his blood, I believe it changes our DNA. I believe that when we accept him, believe in the one who was sent, Jesus the Messiah, I believe our DNA begins to change. And I realize that that's a little woo-woo, but I really do. Because something changes in us when we become born from above. Something miraculous happens. And that miracle, in my opinion, is we have a new nature. We are literally born again, born from above. And these are Jesus' own words when he says to Nicodemus, Nicodemus, you're a Pharisee. How come you don't know these things? That unless you're born from above, you cannot inherit the kingdom of God. And of course, Nicodemus really didn't understand what Jesus was talking about. But at Pentecost, when the Spirit of the living God descended in that upper room, everything changed. The global paradigm began to shift. So we are in a post-Christian world. I want to go back to what I'll be speaking about, the Days of Chaos, at the Remnant Warrior Conference, because I'm going to give a punch list of what is going on. But the bottom line is this. Yeah, we're in the birth pangs. Yeah, things are dire. Yeah, we've got earthquakes in diverse places. We've got volcanic activity, which is unbelievable. We've got the collapse of Venezuela. Thank you, socialism. How's that working out for you, pal? But we've got all that happening. We've got Fukushima, which no one ever talks about, which is still leaking radiation into the Pacific Ocean. We've got trillions of dollars of debt in this country. We've got the left wing, which wants abortion on demand, gay marriage, drag queen story hour in the schools, higher taxes, and bigger government. And all they do is attack Trump, no matter what. For coming on 3.5 years now, it's let's get this guy. And we find out that the deep state, and there is a deep state, by the way, tried to take him down from before the 2016 election. That the FISA warrants that Comey and the crew at the FBI drew up were completely bogus. So I want to, those are the things I'll be talking about. We are in tumultuous, turbulent, troublesome times. And I get that. It's not a feel-good message. You're not going to go, well, LA, that really made me feel good, but it shouldn't. I'll tell you why. Because Jesus says when you see these things begin to happen, the wars and rumors of wars, the famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, troublesome times, when you see these things begin to happen, look up. In other words, for those of us who are born again and spirit-filled, we should be looking up. We should be watching the signs of his return. Is it this year? I don't know, but it could be. It could be at Pentecost, as Gary Stearman thinks. So, look, lots is going on here, and that's why we keep our eye on it. I want to show you something just briefly, and I'm going to see if I can blow this up here a little bit. Let me just see here. So this is all from the coronavirus right here, and I'll see if I can, so you guys can see that. So here we've got 93,154 cases, total deaths 3,000, so it's roughly about 4%. Total recovered 50,000. So mainland China has the most deaths, 2,981. South Korea at 32 deaths, Iran 77, Italy 79. Now, America isn't even listed here, but America's got about, last time I checked, was about 13. So this is what's going on here. And I think, as I said earlier, while something we need to keep an eye on this because we really don't know the severity of it and if it's really going to spread. But it's 30,000 a year, 30,000 a year versus 15, 20, 25 in the United States, and everybody's panicking. So I'm just not buying it, folks. So let me see if I can get Chief Joseph on here. I'd like to welcome my friend and Nephilim site buddy. Chief and I have been on a bunch of different excursions together, and I know there's more in the future. Chief Joseph Riverwind, thank you so much for coming on the record today. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here, sir.
Take away. Thanks a lot, LA. There's many adventures that we've had and many more adventures yet to come.
Yes, exactly.
As more and more truth is being revealed. So it's incredible and an honor and blessing working with you and people like Russ Dizdar and others. This is cutting edge revelation knowledge. It's prophecy that's happening, coming to pass, and we're living it.
So, and you've been on pretty much all of the films except for the new one, America Stonehenge. We just didn't do that. But you've been in many of the films that we've done. And there's this one, and we've talked about this off camera, when you're talking about the signage at the Serpent Mount that insists that the Shawnee built the Serpent Mount, and then Chief Wallace of the Shawnee states on the record that, no, we didn't build it. So you've got to, who's telling the truth here? And you can see that, you're controlling your anger, but I mean, it's there, and it's righteous anger, because I mean, these people are just, it's a managed agenda. Speak to that first, and then we'll kind of get into some of the other things, what you'll be presenting at the conference with your lovely wife, Laura Lynn.
Well, there's so much that is hurtful about what is taking place when and regarding Native American history, First Nations history of this land. For a long time, a lot of our people say, well, why don't these anthropologists and archaeologists ask us what this item is for? Like, for example, the quick go-to explanation for a out-of-place gigantic artifact that's found or uncovered in a mound or burial site is it's ceremonial.
That's the catch-all.
I can't think of any tribe, not that I know all tribes, but I can't think of any tribe that I've researched or that I know of that make gigantic ceremonial items. We just don't. But then here's an instance where the chief of the Shawnee is asked about the origin of the mounds. The ultimate authority over the tribe that inhabited that ancestral homeland of theirs. And when the chief says, we didn't do it, they were here when we got here, the giants built these things. And then for the government to go and put a sign that completely contradicts what the authority over that land, over that tribe, over the history of that region and that place, overriding what they say, it's a slap in the face. And it really is. And then we have to think, why are they doing this? Is it because our stories are too closely related to the biblical narrative of the giants, thereby proving that scripture is true? Is it because it doesn't fit the Darwin paradigm of the theories of evolution? I don't understand. But yet, this same issue is taking place. There is a children's book that has been circulated in public school systems that says that the Trail of Tears, right, regarding the Trail of Tears, that it was a voluntary removal and that the Indians chose to leave so that the settlers could come and settle in their lands. I'm paraphrasing that, but it was voluntarily at the end of a gun.
Right.
There was nothing voluntary about it. So there's a revisionist history agenda taking place to where it doesn't matter what our stories are or what our accounts are of something. If it doesn't fit whatever this agenda or paradigm is, they're just going to do what they want and rewrite history.
And that,
who is it?
you're, I'm going to get emotional here on some level, maybe a little whatever. But I mean, when I was editing that part, and every single time I got to that part, because in post-production you go over things over and over and over and over again. And that hats off to Richard Shaw, who taught me everything I know about filmmaking. I hope I'm doing a good job, Rick. But every time I get to that part in the film, and I watch, you're a very jovial guy. You really are. You're very, very accessible. And I've known you for years now. You're really accessible. What you see is what you get. We're kind of, both of us sort of have the same kind of personality that way. We're just like really open, and you're the same way. You're an open guy, and you're honest, and it's who you are, and there's no nonsense going here on the side. And all you're kind of talking on camera, and all of a sudden your whole countenance changes. And every time I would see that, I would tear up, because I know that it's just got to be like who are these guys and what's their agenda? And when Fritz and I got there at the Serpent Mound, when we got there at the spring equinox a couple of years back and filming there, Fritz looks at me and goes, "Oh my gosh, they've changed all the signage." And Fritz goes, "This is all new. Now they're saying the Shawnee built it." And that's when, I get that to you, and you came back with the Chief Wallace's quote who states emphatically that we didn't build a Serpent Mound. So, you'll be speaking at the mounds, and then we're going to go out to the Great Circle Mound on Sunday. And for those of you who are watching, please don't come with the idea that you're going to do anything there. We're not going to do anything there. The last time we were there, someone was doing something and they got slammed to the ground. So we don't, and that's in, I think, Secrets of the Supernatural.
Off their feet.
Yeah, they fell back like that. Crazy stuff. So we're not, we're there to look and observe, and we're going to pray before we go in. This is a charged site. And I want you to speak about that. These ancient sites that are there, and I know you've seen the film, but when the Mayan elders come up from, South America, the Mayan elders, and they're chanting at the Serpent Mound, they're opening up a gateway. Speak to that.
So there's, in the indigenous way of thinking, sound and sound waves are used, whether through chants or through songs, to open portals and gateways. We find stories about this throughout tribes. Even if there's Cherokee stories that my wife will speak about opening portals into other realms and dimensions using sound, using song. And so this is the same thing that's taking place with the Mayan elders. First of all, they have an ancient connection to the Serpent Mound because it was the ancient Maya and Inca civilizations that came up and brought this similar building techniques, only just not without the colossal stones, as what we find in Central America. So these Mayan elders, they very well understand how to open a portal using these chants and songs and frequencies. So at Serpent Mound, there's a belief that there is a portal that will open, but it's going to take the chanting of the Mayan songs to open these portals. Why are they trying to open the portals? Because they're trying to channel or open the gateway for these beings that appear in ancient times, that built these ancient structures. So when the Mayans got together, like you had in that clip, even just in that short clip, you can feel it. It's just like, yes, it's very disturbing spiritually.
Very much so.
What's coming off of that. So now imagine that going on for hours. And as a matter of fact, that particular gathering, they also had the crystal skulls there. So those skulls are charged items. They intensify the sound frequencies and vibrations to open these spiritual gates. And LA, the truth is the truth, that most of the church is asleep when it comes to this. And, we're given weapons of warfare that are not carnal, but we're not wielding them, or we're not being trained in how to, because the kingdom of dark and its various forms of occult, Wicca, paganism, whatever, they are opening these doors actively on certain equinoxes, on certain constellation alignments. They're active in their form of spiritual warfare against the kingdom of light. We, as believers, need to step up to be able to counter this, especially when it comes to big sites like this. And I'm not saying go run out and try to start a fight with the principality or power ruler.
Yeah, you don't want to do
that. That is insanity to try to do that unless you have a specific anointing, mantle, and a direct calling from the Creator to do that. Don't go out there going, I'm going to go and do spiritual warfare. I'm telling you, these sites are charged. The curses, the spells that are spoken over these places, it's nothing to tamper or play around with. So please don't go out there and try to be like a spiritual Rambo and going to Indian mounds. Do not do that.
So, when we were at the Great Circle Mound, at the Nephilim Mounds Conference, the last one, we talked about that manifestation where the woman manifested. But since we were there, we've created these films, and we plumbed the depths, literally, of the Circle Mound. And what we discovered was that moat, which is, first of all, the Great Circle Mound is about 1,200 feet in diameter. So the thing is really big. And when you walk into it, Fritz Zimmerman believes, as I do, that the entrance at one time had 2 serpent heads in it. So you would go into the entrance and the serpents would look at you. It's also, in some ways, an Aurora Boreas, where the head is here and the tail. In other words, if it's not 2 serpent heads, then what are we looking at? Is it the head here and the tail's here? So really, we have like an Aurora Boreas, which is, very, very strange. And when we walk in there, you got to visualize that none of the trees that are there now were there when this thing was built thousands of years ago. But this interior moat goes all the way around this thing. And we hired a surveyor, and it's in the film, Todd Willis, who went in there with all the latest equipment, satellite stuff and all that. And basically he found that this span is 9 inches right there. That's a 9-inch span from here to here, okay? That's exactly 9 inches. So another 3, the Circle Mound was about 6 inches to a foot level, dead level, in 1,200 feet. And it begs the question, how do you do that? And then when you move over to the Octagon Mound, and this is my question to you. So we've got advanced surveying techniques. Somehow they can make a moat 1,200 feet, and the moat is deep. I mean, when you're standing at the bottom of it, the level is over your head. So it's at least 6 to 8 feet, in depth. And that whole plaza at one time was more than likely dead level. So you've got that, and in that complex of what's called the Newark Earthworks, you've got the Circle Mound, and then about a few miles away, the Octagon Mound. And the Octagon Mound encompasses over 50 acres of land. And that thing is built on an 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle. It's complex mathematics. And we asked you and others, with all due respect, I mean, Native Americans didn't travel in trigonometry. They didn't have these kind of surveying techniques. And yet, once again, the anthropologists and modern-day archaeologists insists that you did have it, that native people did have it. When even in Europe, you go back 3,000 years ago and they didn't have trigonometry. So your thoughts on that?
Well, of all the tribes, the Maya and the Inca, they were the first ones to develop the mathematical concept of zero. They had advanced mathematics. So, and archaeologists, anthropologists will teach this about, their building techniques and their alignment to the constellations and all these things. But then if we look further into the stories of where the Maya and the Inca received this knowledge from, it goes right back to the star beings that fell from the heavens in their own story of their own foundation of their people. And so here these fallen beings, these spiritual beings, these fallen angels, these Nephilim, watchers, whatever you want to call them, who fell from the heavens according to the Maya Inca records, and which they had writing, by the way. A lot of times where Native Americans didn't have a writing system. Well, the Maya and the Inca did. They recorded all this. And so here they have the establishment of their society by these fallen spiritual beings, these star people, and they're the ones who gave them the knowledge of the building, the architecture, the mathematics. And that lines up even with what we see in the Book of Enoch, if anybody ever goes into that realm, of the knowledge that these fallen beings brought. So that correlates with the First Nations oral tradition of its fallen ones. They brought this knowledge, and then they spread it, not just in Central America, but even up here into the Americas, into especially the Ohio region. And we know from anthropological research that even the sacrificial system of the Maya and the Inca for fertility and for the rains, the last time that was done, that's identical to what was done by the Maya and the Inca, was with the Pawnee. And the Pawnee are up in that northern Ohio and Central Plains area. So we find even there, and the last time that sacrifice was done was in the mid-1800s, but it was an exact copy of the Maya Inca sacrifice. So we know, and just from the architecture and the similarities and even the stories, that their influence had spread this far. Now, when you listen to the oral tradition of the native people, while there were giant tribes that we fought against, these complexes were ruled by these giants. And so there were people that were subservient to them, but these big bases like Okmulgee, which is in modern-day Macon, Georgia,
right.
Cahokia, all these big mound complexes, Echota in North Georgia, these were all ruled, these chiefdoms, by these giants, these leaders. They were 9, 10 to 12 foot tall. So these stories all correlate. We find this knowledge spread out all throughout the Southeast, and especially the mound systems. So we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, according to our oral tradition, what built these, who built these, and it was not us. I have yet to find any native elder or leader or spiritual leader from any spectrum of belief, whether traditional, or Christian or not, who will say that we built them. There may be some copies, but they're obvious copies that were man-made. But the truth of the matter is, we're as native people, we love to hunt, we love to fish. Back then, in those days, we had freedom over this beautiful land. Who wants to pick up the shoulder blade of a deer in a basket and little by little, right, just work this insane amount of work to build these mounds? That's the explanation that the history books will tell you, but that's not the explanation that we'll tell you.
So we have a real disparity between what Native Americans, who were here before anybody else, okay? I mean, they come into the land and they say that, wow, it was here when we got here. That leads me to this idea. I'll be speaking at Steve Quayle's conference about catastrophism. And it seems like, and we've got biblical, references to this, certainly Sodom and Gomorrah, 180,000 Syrians which were taken out. I mean, God has done this numerous times. I mean, you look at Nineveh, when he sends Jonah up to Nineveh, the same deal. It's like, I'm going to destroy this thing unless these guys repent. They all repent. But, we're looking at something else like with the Circle Mound and the Serpent Mound. I mean, the stories that I've heard were that when natives came in, stuff was just there. It had been abandoned. And I'm going to, just for the viewers, I know you know this, but modern day archaeologists, and this happened at the turn of the 19th into the 20th century, where the head guy at the Smithsonian, whatever, decided that, well, you know what? Native Americans built the mounds, but they just forgot that they had done so. And when I tell that to audiences, the entire audience just erupts in laughter. And we'll see this at the Nephilim Mounds Conference, of course, coming up at the end of March, because I'm gonna say that, because that's what archaeologists are taught. That's what they parrot back to their professors. Well, natives built it, but they just forgot that they had done so. I want you to speak about how sacrosanct the oral tradition is between one generation and the next, and why this statement is egregiously wrong.
So a lot of people tend to think, or when they're hearing explanations about Native oral history or oral tradition, that it's similar to the telephone game. Where one person starts the conversation, and by the end, it's a completely different story, or there's things that have been added. So in the traditional sense of a wisdom keeper or storyteller, there's different names and different tribes for this specific office. Children in the community are observed by the elders. There's a child who has an incredible propensity to be able to memorize things. So this child, whether a boy or girl, will be set apart and taught the stories of the tribe. Now, the way that the integrity of the story remains intact is that when a traditional storyteller shares a story, like when we share stories, when we're teaching or sharing about Native culture, we're paraphrasing the stories. A traditional storyteller has that story memorized word for word. And the integrity of the story is kept intact with the vow that no word can be added to the story and no word can be taken away. Of course, there's sometimes translations issues from going into English, but the integrity is kept to the purest form. So what that does is, if we hear a traditional storyteller at, say, our Greenthorn grounds, and that storyteller speaks that story, it's no different now than it was 500 years ago or 1,500 years ago. And it was designed that way to keep the integrity of a story alive and pure in its purest form. So we have our stories. We have stories about things that even scientists have been able to correlate with things that have happened physically, geophysically, whether earthquakes or floods. So science is just now starting to, in some realms, look at our oral tradition to validate things that they have found in the physical. Now, when it comes to saying, oh, we just forgot how to build the mountains, that's ridiculous. We have songs that have been carried down for centuries among our people. We have ceremonies that have been carried down and passed down to the minutest of detail for centuries. Our language, there's so much that has been passed down for centuries, and you think something colossal and huge, like building a complex with constellation alignments, this great feat of humanity, of those ancient times, that we would forget how to do that, but it's a ridiculous assumption.
Yeah, and yet that is the paradigm that is upheld. And I mean, you go to these museums, and that's what, if you engage, and I've done this, you engage the head archaeologist at the museum, and he or she will just parrot back that exact thing. Well, the Native Americans did it, they just forgot that they had done so, blah, 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 blah. Oh, they knew advanced trigonometry and all this kind of stuff. And it's just, I mean, the whole thing, when you really start investigating it, and that's why we're on the trail, it just collapses of its own weight. We are looking at the fingerprints of the supernatural. We are looking at the Nephilim. Now, you're going to bring an object which was given to you by a mutual friend of ours. We first saw this years ago at, I think, that the first, maybe the second Nephilim Mounds conference, I forget which one. And this guy came in, and we all thought it was a sword. And you said, no, it's not a sword. Pick up a story from there.
So y'all are at the table going, oh, look at this sword, and what is this doing up in the was like the Upper Peninsula of Michigan? And I talked about how, hey, we're seeing this through ethnocentric eyes, through the views of our ethnocentrics. As a European, you see a sword, but as a Native person, immediately, just even the shape of it was a gigantic form of what would be a smaller war lance. Now, Native people did have war lances. Sometimes 3 to 4 foot pole, then you had the flint shaped war lance head. But this was not made from flint or obsidian. This was made of metal, but it was still in the exact same shape that you would place into a war lance pole or staff. And not only that, but it matched the oral tradition of one of the weapons that the giants would use to skewer 2 to 3 warriors at a time. And so when I saw this, that was my first thought, and I'm bringing the original lance to the Nephilim conference. And since then, we've had analysis done on it, and the results were just stunning.
Mind-blowing.
And we'll be sharing those too at the conference as well, as to where it was from, where the metal's from, and how old this out-of-place artifact is.
What, we're kind of running out of time here, but what exactly will you be speaking on, you and your lovely wife, Laura Lynn? What are you going to be presenting on Friday? Just give us a taste on this. And folks, if you're interested, and we encourage you, the heck with this coronavirus nonsense. I think it's just a lot of hype. But NephilimAgain.com, NephilimAgain.com. Get your tickets. We still have plenty of room. Russ Dizdar will be talking about Artilex, and of course Chief Joseph Riverwind and Laura Lynn will be there. Drew Graffia will be talking about the Nephilim, and of course I'll be presenting our exhaustive research on the trail of the Nephilim. But Chief, tell us what you and Laura Lynn will be speaking about.
So Friday evening, just to give everybody a taste of Native oral tradition, we're going to share a Native American giant story with everybody, to kind of give you just a taste and a feel for how the stories are told, and just to share one of our people's giant stories from the Southeast. And then throughout the rest of the weekend, we want to share with people information about the giants and the Nephilim, the star beings, according to our oral tradition, and also not just what they have to do with us in the past, but also in the future. Because we have stories and prophecies about what is yet to come, and it ties in absolutely, it's incredible, with biblical prophecy, and correlates with what we read in Scripture from what was written thousands of years ago. And so we're going to share some of these stories for the first time, and I really believe that it's going to be eye-opening for a lot of people, especially when we show you what's happening now and how close we are to these fulfillments of prophecy. But ultimately, we know who wins in the end. But we have to have our pulse as watchmen on the wall and know what is happening out there. The people need to get their heads out of the sand like the ostriches, and this information needs to be exposed of what's happening in the kingdom of darkness, so we can be prepared.
Well said, and I can't wait to see you again. And we're gonna arrive a little earlier, and you and I have got some places we're gonna go investigate. So that'll be very interesting. Chief Joseph Riverwind, thank you so much for coming on the record. Always an honor and pleasure to see you, sir. And we'll see you in a few weeks, folks. Chief will be there. He's giving you whetted your appetite. www.nephilimagain.com. Nephilimagain.com. Get your tickets now, and hope to see you there. Thanks for watching Acceleration Radio. Remember, we'll see you on the air or in the air. Thanks for watching. Okay. Thank you, sir.
You have a safe trip to Dallas.
Thank you.
The story of the reptile, called the Prince of the Power of the Air,
because there's real demonic power and forces behind these locations.
I heard a commotion and I turned around and...
There's no question there's a spiritual implication. It was built upon monolithic stones, which so it was originally a Nephilim stronghold.
So what we're seeing that little stick figure.
The table was actually levitating by itself.
Sites are Nephilim architecture, have anything to do with fallen angels, and of course that means demonic activity.
And something hits me right on my belt, knocks the breath out of me.